don't.
Oh, should I do the microphone here?
You're smart, boss. When I grow up, I want to be a boss like you.
This is the microphone.
It's called the microphone.
This is supposed to be on.
Assalamu alaikum. What's that? Bismillah, so we're on.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's already on, Brother Abdullah? Yeah, it's on. Bismillah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Madan. And to our internet viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem to all of you. And now we have a signal from Abdul Jabbar to fix my hat here. Let me fix that. Okay, so in tonight's lecture, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the 15th juz of the Quran. We're in the 15th juz. That means tomorrow, that's the 15th fast, right? That means we're halfway there. Alhamdulillah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us and make the rest of the month easy for us to fulfill our duties to Him therein. And now, so tonight we're dealing with the 15th juz of the Quran, and that juz contains Surah Isra, the 17th chapter, and a part of Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th chapter. Let me focus in tonight's talk mostly on the 17th chapter. If we have time, we'll say something about the 18th, that is Surah Al-Kahf. And if not, we will deal with Surah 18, Surah Al-Kahf tomorrow night, inshallah, since we will be reciting the rest of that surah in tomorrow's Taraweeh prayers. So, Surah Isra, the 17th chapter of the Quran, is called by two names. It's called Bani Israel, because it mentions a lot about the history of the Bani Israel, and it also is called Surah Isra because it starts by mentioning the night journey of the Prophet ﷺ. The surah begins, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Subhanalladhi Asra bi Abdihi Layla min al-Masjid al-Haram ila al-Masjid al-Aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina innahu huwa samiul basir. Glory be to the one who transported his servant by night from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa لِنُرِيَهُ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا, so that we may show him some of our signs. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Certainly he is hearing and seeing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to this ayah, transported his servant by night. Who is that servant? The Mufassirun say this is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who was transported from Masjid al-Haram, that is what we know to be in Mecca, and he was taken all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa, which means literally the farthest mosque. That was the masjid in the place of worship in Jerusalem. There was no building at that time, they tell us, because the Temple Mount is that on which the Sulaiman alayhi salam had built the temple, but then that temple had been demolished. And some of that history is talked about in this surah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to help the Bani Israel so long as they would stay on the right track. But then if they did not, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the enemies to fight against them and to destroy them, to destroy the temple. And this is what in fact has happened more than once. And the surah has a lot of important instruction for us, so we have to take consideration of that. Our Christian friends speak about the 10 commandments in the Bible. When we talked about Surah Al-An'am, we saw that many commandments are written there. Also in this surah, many commandments are mentioned. For example, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is mentioned, actually in this case it is mentioned towards the end of the list, where it says, do not take any other, لا تجعل مع الله إلها آخر فتلقى في جهنم. Do not take any other than Allah for your Lord, or otherwise you will be thrown into Jahannam. This is how that verse reads. Also important is the service towards our parents. That verse number 23 in that surah says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. God has decreed that you should worship none but Him, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and that you should be kind towards your parents. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. If one of them or both of them should reach old age with you, do not say to them uff, and do not repulse them. So what is this uff? The Mufassirun say any kind of harsh word. You should not say a harsh word against your parents, but you should وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. You should say to them a graceful, a kind word. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. And you should lower for them the wing of submission in humility, in mercy. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا. And say, my Lord, have mercy on them. كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. As they used to take care of me when I was small. So this is the dua we should make for our parents. Sometimes when the parents get old, we are in two different generations. We think one way, they think another way. We speak one way, they speak another way. Sometimes youth become ashamed of their parents in front of their friends because their parents are so different. Sometimes from a different culture, wearing different clothing, sometimes cooking different food, smell differently. We are afraid our friends will not accept us because of our parents, and so we start to despise the parents. So this is all natural, a part of growing up, but eventually we get over that. And but we should keep this focus on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us about the importance of our parents. Our parents are more important than our friends, and we should rather keep the parents and let the friends go if they have to go. But that fear is not warranted. If they're good friends, they will appreciate you and appreciate your parents as well. They will love your parents because they love you. If they won't love your parents, then something is wrong. Why should they love you but not your parents? Don't accept that this is a natural situation. Don't accept as a friend somebody who will despise your parents. That's not leading anywhere. This is important also when we come to marriage. When you get to getting married, you want to make sure that the whole family is happy as far as possible, right? So that the spouse you choose for yourself is happy with your parents is happy with that person. Sometimes parents make unreasonable demands, we know that. So we can't fulfill all unreasonable demands, but as best as possible we have to keep our priorities in order. So this ayah is very strong on obedience to and having respect for and mercy for the parents, especially when they reach old age, as this ayah says. Don't speak a word of contempt, don't say uff, a harsh word to them, but speak to them in a kind way. Lower for them the wings of submission in mercy. Out of mercy for them, just do what they're asking you to do. you keep making dua for them. Rabbi irhamhuma, oh Allah, have mercy on them. Kama rabbayani saghira, as they took care of me when I was young. Sometimes we forget that we were young at one time and parents had to take care of us. We don't realize until we ourselves have children, then we realize how difficult it is to care for children. You're nodding for us, right? It's not easy, right? How old are your kids?
9 months.
9 months, it's the one, right? 9 months, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you more. Now, Brother Kabil, his wife is expecting any time. He's on the phone just waiting for the news. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. We'll have a nice Ramadan baby here. And, Brother Kabil is always around here and helping us and serving food downstairs and so on. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and bless his family and bless all of you. So, yes, we become aware that it really takes something out of you to take care of the children, and then we realize that our parents did the same thing for us when we were young. This surah goes into other instructions about, for example, لا تقربوا مال اليتيم إلا بالتي هي أحسن. Do not approach the wealth of the orphan except with that which is better. So if you have anything to do with the wealth of the orphan, you're there to preserve it, to invest it, to make sure that it's good for them and it's kept safe, but never to take anything from it. You have to respect the rights of the orphans. In a society in the past in which people who were marginalized and without power, they could be taken advantage of. The Quran was stressing the rights of these people, like orphans, for example. They may not have one parent or both parents, but we need to have mercy on them because they have suffered a tremendous loss, and if they don't have any parents to look after their rights, people can misuse and misappropriate their wealth. But the Muslims are being told, no, you should take care of the wealth of the orphan. Do not approach the wealth of the orphan except to make it better. إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And even when we deal with others, this surah is telling us that you should awful kayla idha kiltum. When you measure, you should fulfill the measure. Don't give short measure and short weight to other people. And wa'awfu bil ahd, you should fulfill the pledges. Inna al-ahda kana anhu mas'ula. Certainly the ahd or the covenant you're going to be questioned about. You make a covenant with somebody, you think it's only between me and this person. It's either there's a handshake or there's a verbal agreement, or sometimes there's a documented agreement and you think it's all right here. But no, this is going to be asked about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us about that as well. So we need to fulfill that as Muslims. We need to fulfill our covenant. This surah says, La taqfu ma laysa laka bihi ilm. Do not go into things in which you have no knowledge. Sometimes people say things and they have no knowledge of those things, but they try to say, everybody likes to say that they know something. And even somebody doesn't know something, you ask him a question, he tries to answer you. Somehow the instinct is like that, to give an answer, even if you don't know. So Imam Siraj, it's very funny. In one lecture he was saying, like, you ask somebody about the direction, which way to go. He says, I believe it's that way. No, that way, So it's like he doesn't even know, but he's giving. Of course, in a situation like that, it's normal. People are trying to help, and because you need the directions, they're trying to help in the best way they can. But this is illustrative of a broader problem, that people try to give answers to things. Somebody comes and they ask, okay, how do I do this in Islam? What does Islam say about this? We are ready to answer. And people do not like to say, I do not know. But it is noted that Imam Malik, rahimahullah, was a great scholar of Islam, as you know. The Maliki school of Islamic jurisprudence is one of the 4 major schools. And that goes back to Imam Malik. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, compiler of Muwatta, one of the first collections of hadith that we have surviving today. And so he was a known scholar. People used to come to him to learn. And somebody came from a far distance and he sat with Imam Malik, and he's asking questions so he can take back the answers to his people. And he was asking the questions, and Imam Malik was saying, I don't know, to that and that and that, and I don't know. So he said, the man said, the man is now embarrassed because his people expect that Imam Malik is going to give the answers. And so he says, Imam Malik, oh, what am I going to tell the people when I go back? He says, just tell them. Malik says, I don't know. That's simple, right? So if you don't know, you don't know. In fact, some of the great scholars of Islam hesitated to answer questions, not because they didn't know, but because they realized the great responsibility that came with the answer. If you get somebody the wrong answer and they act on that wrong answer, then if it's a mistake, then it comes back to you. You're the one who misled that person. They didn't want to be the one to mislead somebody in case there is something, like it involves a judgment. If something is very clear, like somebody asks you how many prayers there are in a day and night of, it's clear that there's 5, right? There's something as the Muslim scholar says, al-ma'lum min ad-dini bi-darura, right? That which is necessarily known as part of the religion. Al-ma'lum min ad-dini bid-darura. So you know that. Everybody knows it. Some things are very clear. So you can tell them. But if you don't know, if something is not so very clear, and sometimes people are thinking they have to think now and give the answer. So where is the answer going to come from? Just sure, from your raw thinking, or it has to come from some investigation. It's a different thing if you say, okay, brother, I don't know, but let me investigate that question for you. Then you ask or you consult the right sources or authorities, and then you get back to that person with the answer. So that you can do. As for the giving the knowledge out of one's just own thinking, the Quran is warning, "La taqfu ma laysa laka bihi ilm." Do not make pronouncements about that which, or get into things which you have no knowledge about. Inna sam'a wal basara wal fu'ad kullu ulaika kullu dhalika kana anhu mas'ula. So all of these things you're going to be questioned about. What? Your sama, your hearing, wal basar, and your seeing, and your fu'ad as well. Your heart, or your thinking, or your mental capacities. You're going to be asked about concerning all of these things by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're going to be questioned about these things. Let us not make mistakes. Talk about the sama and the basar, the sama and the basar, the hearing and the vision. That too we're going to be questioned about. So we should be sure that we are using these in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's use our eyes to look at the page of the Quran, to read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's look at good things and permissible things. Let's hear good things and permissible. Listen to the Quranic recitation. Listen to some good lectures, and so on. So we only have 24 hours in a day, right? We can either use it in doing good things, or we can use it in doing sinful things. And between the two, there are things which are mubah, neither sinful nor good by themselves. But if we approach them with good intention, we get blessings for them as well. Like, you don't have to take a particular subject, but if you say, I'm going to study that subject because that will be of use to the Muslim community, I will help my community by getting that knowledge and getting an expertise in that area, then you are getting blessings for that. It's mubah by itself, it's neutral, neither sinful nor a source of blessings. But if you do it with the right intention, now you're getting blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this way, anything we do, we are eating, we are sleeping. If a person goes to bed thinking like, I'm going early because I want to get up for the Fajr prayer, so he's getting reward. He goes to sleep, but he's getting reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he goes to sleep thinking that my body is a responsibility from Allah azza wa jalla, I have to take care of it, I need to sleep so that my body can recuperate, he's getting blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he says, I want to sleep well tonight so that I can endure the fast tomorrow for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's getting blessings for that intention, you see. So even our minds are going to be asked about on the Day of Judgment. So how did we use our minds? We should think about that even right now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in this surah the recitation of the Quran at the Fajr time. In the Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda, the recitation of the Quran at Fajr time, this is witnessed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is encouraging us to read his book and وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ. So establishing the prayer during the nighttime is something beloved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because when people go to sleep, there are some who are devout, who are still up worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we stand in the Taraweeh prayers tonight, we should remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is paying attention to our prayers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listening to our recitation, and He's even even responding when we are reciting. We say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is responding to that and saying, my servant has praised me. So we'll finish reciting Surah Isra tonight, the 17th chapter of the Quran. Then we will go into Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf is the 18th chapter of the Quran, and it has some interesting stories. It is called Surah Al-Kahf because it includes the story of some youth who were being oppressed by their people and being forced into committing worship of idols, idol worship. But in order to save themselves from that, they secluded themselves in a cave, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them to sleep for 309 years, according to this story, and then eventually revived them. And the story is interesting the way it unfolds when they come to interact with people, and it is now seen that the coins that they had, which they thought they could buy bread with, was very ancient, and they thought that they were in the cave only for a short while. They did not realize that the time was passing. And some other interesting stories in that surah as well. The story of a man who is the owner of 2 gardens, and he thinks that he has everything at his disposal now. And sometimes people get puffed up with pride, and they think that just as God has given them a lot of things here in the life hereafter, if there is a life hereafter, they'll get good as well. They have this kind of vain hope. Well, so was the statement of this man when his friend came to him to tell him, you should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he said, this is, I have everything here, and if there is a life hereafter, why worry? I'll get the same. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent something that destroyed his garden, the source of his wealth, and then he was sorry. So with a story like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us that we should turn to Allah Azza wa Jal while we have life and breath and mind, and worshipping in the best way possible, and not wait for a disaster to strike where whatever we rely on is gone, and then we're going to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the last resort. We should turn to Him even now. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our reading tonight, and accept our standing, and accept our fasting, and all of our good deeds. And tomorrow night again, inshallah, for all of you, we will have another lecture here, and at 8 o'clock Toronto time, for those of you who are watching us on the internet, tune in tomorrow 8 o'clock when we talk about Isa alayhi salam, the Quranic presentation of him, and what Muslims need to know if they are involved in giving the message of Islam to others. So tomorrow 8, and then again here at 10. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.